After his mother offered me $10 million to break up with him, I went back to my hometown. The first thing I did was fix up my family's old house in the village. I also bought my grandmother a huge flat-screen TV. My plan was to live a quiet life, staying out of the way until the end of my days. I was sitting at the entrance to the village playing a game of chess with one of the old men when Leo's angry text messages started flooding my phone. "Your knight moves in an L shape, sir. You missed it again," I said, raising an eyebrow. The old man clicked his tongue. "Your phone won't stop buzzing. This move doesn't count." My name is Chloe Davis. I had spent 4 years as Leo Vance's assistant and, for all intents and purposes, his girlfriend. Finally, his mother decided to meet with me. It was my birthday and he had booked a private room at a restaurant for us. But when I got there, it was his mother, not Leo, who was waiting. "Hello," I said politely. "Where's Leo?" She smiled gently. "Leo went to pick up Sophie. I thought I'd come ahead to have a word with you." My heart dropped at the mention of Sophie's name. Her tone was calm but firm as she continued. "I don't want there to be any loose ends between you and Leo by the time he and Sophie get engaged." So it was actually happening. The kind of over-the-top drama I'd only ever seen in movies was playing out in my own life. I kept my voice even. "What is it you'd like me to do?" She sighed softly, then spoke with a very deliberate gentleness. "I know you're a good girl, Chloe, but let's be realistic. If your name wasn't Chloe, Leo never would have hired you at the company. I understand it couldn't have been easy being a stand-in for someone else." I pressed my lips together. She wasn't wrong. My name was Chloe Davis, and Leo's longtime college crush was named Sophie Dane. Our names were similar, but I wasn't her. Leo's mother saw my silence and took it as hesitation. "You've been by Leo's side for years. I won't have you leave with nothing. This card has $10 million on it. Use it to build a new life for yourself." That incredible number snapped me right out of my sentimental thoughts and back to reality. Who was I to call this woman cruel? I thought she was being incredibly generous. 3 days later, I was back in my small, quiet hometown, a place nobody had ever heard of. I did exactly what I was paid to do. I cut off all contact. The second I stepped off the train, I blocked all of Leo's numbers, deleted our chat histories, and wiped every trace of him from my phone. It hurt, of course, but not as much as it would have hurt to watch him hold Sophie's hand and tell me I was in the way. My parents divorced when I was 8, and they both started new families, having more children. I was left behind in our town with my grandmother. They weren't bad people. They sent money every month for my living expenses and school tuition. When it came to providing love and shouldering responsibility, I suppose each of my parents handled one part of the job. As a kid, I used to tell my grandma that I would make a lot of money and get our family back together. Grandma would just shake her head and say, "Even if you become rich, don't you give them a single penny. That money is what they owe you." After I graduated, I worked hard to make a life for myself in the city. My apartment had walls so thin I could hear my neighbor roll over in bed. Then I met Leo. He was patient with me and helped me learn and grow, and I really did. I still remember seeing him for the first time. I was at an interview with his company. He was sitting on the panel, his head down, flipping through a magazine. I was confident and well-prepared, and I delivered my introduction smoothly. "Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chloe, and I graduated from XX University with a degree in business administration." He glanced up at me once, then stood up and walked out of the room. I remember thinking, what is his problem? Just as I was getting ready to leave and look for my next interview, I got a phone call telling me I was hired. It was a big company after all, fast and efficient. And just like that, I began a 4-year-long emotional entanglement with Leo Vance. When my grandmother saw me come home, she was overjoyed. She went right to the kitchen and made a big pot of my favorite stew, just like I remembered it. This time, I came back to my hometown with a clear plan. I did 3 things. First, I bought the land next to my grandma's house and built a big new villa. Second, I completely renovated her old house with new furniture, a modern kitchen, and that brand new big screen TV. And third, I invested in a local agricultural startup to help modernize farming in our village. When the flood of texts from Leo arrived, I was sitting at the village entrance, playing chess with an old man. "Uncle," I said, confused, "what do you mean the knight moves like a sun and the bishop moves like an eye? The old man sighed dramatically. Oh, come on, girl. I was about to win. Your phone completely broke my concentration. I laughed. All right, uncle. Don't be a sore loser. I'm done for today anyway. I'm heading home. Grandma's probably waiting for me to eat. I packed up the chess pieces and stood up. As I walked away, I heard him call after me. Come back tomorrow, Chloe. Don't leave an old man hanging. I kicked at the fallen leaves on my way home. Just then, my phone rang. I answered it. It was Leo. Chloe, where are you? I could practically hear him grinding his teeth through the phone. I'm back in the village, I said casually. What for? And why did you block me without a word? Even though I wasn't his employee anymore, his familiar tone still made me a little nervous. I came home to grow vegetables, I answered. I'm starting a new life. You and Miss Dane can go on and live your own happy life now. There was a long silence on the other end before Leo finally said, You really disappoint me. You like vegetables that much? Then grow as many as you want. The next morning, I was still curled up in bed, dreaming I was a hawk playing tag with our little chickens, when my grandma burst into my room and pulled the blanket off me. Chloe, get up! Mrs. Gable said there's a young man at the village gate asking for you. I burrowed back under the covers. Grandma, don't worry about it. He's probably looking for some other Chloe. Grandma grumbled as she left. Since when is there another Chloe in this village? Oh, Grandma. In your world, there's only one of me, but in his, I was never the only one. After I got ready, I ignored Leo's messages and went straight to the vegetable garden behind Grandma's house. I had made my choice. Between being someone's replacement forever and living a free and happy life at home, I knew what I wanted. I was crouched down trying to figure out why my celery seedlings looked so much like radishes, when a pair of polished leather shoes appeared in front of me. Chloe, Leo said, his voice low. So this is the life you really want? So much for the dramatic reunion I had pictured in my head. I thought I would be standing tall, looking calm and proud, completely indifferent. Instead, he found me squatting in the dirt with muddy hands, looking like a fool inspecting vegetables. I stood up and brushed the dirt off my hands. Yes, this is exactly the life I want. I spend my days helping my grandma. We dance and laugh. I play chess with Mr. Chen so he doesn't have to sit alone all day. I feed our chickens and get excited when they lay extra eggs. I was smiling, but there was no warmth in my voice. Leo stared at me for a moment, then turned and walked away without another word. In my head, I could almost hear the sweeping piano music from a dramatic movie, where the heroine has to push away the man she loves for his own good. But that wasn't me. I was never the main character in his story. The real leading lady was someone like Sophie Grant, elegant, proper, and born into his world. I was just an extra, a temporary stand-in for the girl he never got over. I wiped a tear from the corner of my eye and went back to the village entrance. Mr. Chen was already there with the chessboard set up. I sat down next to him, just like I promised I would. I didn't have time to be sad. If I didn't watch Mr. Chen's every move, there was no telling when he'd try to make his rook move diagonally or have his bishop jump over other pieces. But something felt off today. Mr. Chen's moves were unusually good. I looked up and saw him fiddling with his ear. You couldn't fool me. After 4 years with Leo, I could tell what he wanted just from a twitch of his lips. It was such a childish way to get revenge. It wasn't hard to guess who was feeding him moves through an earpiece. Apparently, even Mr. Chen had been recruited. I stood up and said with a smirk, I'm done playing, Mr. Chen. Next time, tell the person in your earpiece to come play me face to face. I walked away without looking back, leaving the old man looking bewildered. I heard footsteps running after me. A spark of mischief lit up inside me. I grabbed the leash from Mrs. Gable, who was walking her sheep. Mrs. Gable, let me take your sheep for a walk, I called out as I started running. She shouted back, All right, Chloe, just be careful you don't fall. And so, on that little village path, there was the strange sight of a young woman in a skirt running with a sheep and a man in a suit sprinting after her. Even the village dogs probably stopped to watch the spectacle. Of course, even with a sheep, I couldn't outrun Leo. He caught up to me, out of breath. Chloe, what are you doing? Who told you that you could leave? Your mom did, I shot back. He narrowed his eyes. Did you just insult my mother? No, I said it was your mom. She's the one who told me to leave. Just then, Mr. Martinez came rattling up the road in his three-wheeled cart back from the fields. The moment Leo saw the vehicle, he instinctively jumped back. Mr. Martinez pulled up next to us. Chloe, want me to take the sheep home for you? Sure, I said, brushing my hair out of my face. Take it to Mrs. Gable's place, and when you pass my house, tell my grandma I'm not coming home for lunch. After he drove off, I took Leo to the only little diner in the village and bought him a bowl of the local specialty, clay pot rice noodles for 8 yuan. Feeling generous, I even got him a cup of the most authentic, artificially flavored milk tea in town. When Maria brought our food, I handed Leo a pair of disposable chopsticks from the container on the table. Mr. Vance, your chopsticks. Leo hesitated but took them. As he started to eat, he asked, Come back with me after this. Tell me, how much did my mother give you? Was it enough to make leaving me the better choice? 10 million, I said without flinching. Then I added softly, and the chance to be the main character in my own story. Leo smiled faintly, but it was a bitter smile. 4 years, he said. You threw it all away for 10 million. Why couldn't you be the main character while you were with me? I sipped the milk tea. It had coconut jelly in it and was so sweet it made my stomach turn. Leo, I'm 28. I could tell he wanted to say something, but he didn't. I met him when I was 23, but I couldn't spend my life in someone else's shadow. For men like him, 28 is their prime. It's all about boardrooms, deals, and celebrations for another business success. Never for a heart that was truly understood. He looked at the milk tea for a long time and then asked, Is this the kind you drank as a kid? I nodded. He picked it up, put the straw in, and took a sip. Then he left. Leo was always busy, but before he walked away, he said, You were never a side character, Chloe, and you were never a stand-in. The only person in my heart has always been you. I'll admit I wavered for a second, but I had already taken the money from his mother. A promise is a promise. Ever since Leo's visit, I'd been dreaming about our past almost every night. I dreamed about the first time we met. I introduced myself, and as I finished, he looked up, and in that moment, our story began. I dreamed of our trip to Europe, walking along the beach. I ran ahead barefoot, laughing, while he followed behind, carrying my shoes and calling my name. I dreamed of the time I was sick with a high fever. He, a man who is always busy, stayed by my side for 2 whole days and nights. I dreamed of how he never forgot my birthday. Every year he would clear his schedule just for me, order a custom cake, and plan surprises for weeks. I dreamed of the nights we spent together and how he would whisper a name in his sleep over and over. Chloe. I could never tell if he was calling for me or for someone else. I dreamed of the day I found a photo hidden in the bottom of his desk drawer. The girl in the picture had a name that sounded just like mine. He didn't offer an explanation. He just reached out and quietly took the photo back. Maybe I'm just too easily swayed by appearances. Maybe that's why I said yes when he finally asked me to be with him, even though I knew we came from different worlds. And even though I knew that part of the reason my name was Chloe might not have been a simple coincidence. Fine, I admit it, I was weak. I couldn't resist a man who was not only handsome and rich, but also gentle and seemingly sincere. But I didn't have time to dwell on regrets. I had to get to my grandmother's vegetable garden to fertilize the plants. I changed into overalls and sneakers, trying to find a balance between being a stylish woman and a farm girl. After dragging my feet for 30 minutes, I finally put on my gloves, filled a basket with fertilizer, and set off like a determined little gardener. Honestly, this might be the outfit I've regretted wearing the most in my entire life. When I got to the garden, I started spreading the fertilizer just like the man at the shop had told me to. I felt energetic, completely in tune with the earth. That's when she showed up. A woman with chestnut brown, glossy curls, wearing a custom-made outfit and a pair of Valentino heels. She looked like she had just stepped off a runway. I glanced up and grumbled to myself, seriously, who wears that to a village garden? Who is she trying to impress? Then her voice came, sweet and pleasant, but sharp. Hello there, do you know where Chloe's house is? I looked up and recognized her face immediately. It was unforgettable. I had imagined our first meeting 1,000 times. In every version, I was graceful, beautiful, and calm. I would turn around with poise and say something like, "He's all yours." I never imagined I'd be wearing rubber gloves, holding a handful of fertilizer, dressed in childish overalls, with a basket strapped to my chest. I wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. She looked at me with a slight smile and asked, "You're Chloe, right?" "I'm her second personality," I said dryly. Who in their right mind would admit it was them? She ignored my sarcasm. "Wow, you're funny. No wonder Leo said I could learn a lot from you." "Learn what? How to plant vegetables?" I asked, throwing the last of the fertilizer onto the soil and staring at her. She tilted her head. "I confessed to Leo." "Oh." My heart sank, though I tried not to show it. So this was it, the classic romantic comedy moment come to life. What should I do if the girl I've secretly loved for 3 years suddenly confesses to me? Except it wasn't a movie anymore. Good for them. I wish them well. "He turned me down," she continued, "said I'm not his type." I blinked, stunned. That can't be true. Everyone knew he had a crush on you all through college. "I thought so too," she said, her eyes calm. "So I looked into what changed after he liked me. That's when I realized he fell for you." Wow. Confidence must run in the family. Leo had it, and Sophie clearly had even more of it. "You came back and confessed because you still like him?" I asked. She nodded. "Yes, I do like him. And when I like something, I don't give up easily. That's why I'm here." "Fantastic," I said, clapping my hands and turning back to the garden. Just as I expected, men only ever succeeded in slowing down my fertilizing. "But there's nothing here for you to learn," I told her bluntly. "Look around. You can't even do this kind of work. He was just bluffing." No, I can do it," she insisted cheerfully. Without a second thought, she picked up the spare gloves next to my basket and started copying my movements, scattering fertilizer just as I had. Honestly, with that kind of determination, forget Leo. If she set her sights on me, she might just win me over. I couldn't let this elegant woman keep helping me with farm chores. Her father was the kind of man who could bankrupt a small business like mine with a single phone call. But she insisted, saying that once you start something, you should always finish it. I had to admit, every successful woman seems to have that kind of self-discipline. Left with no other choice, I lied and told her the garden was fully fertilized. I managed to coax her back to the house. When we arrived, Grandma was already waiting at the door. Sophie smiled brightly. "Hello, Grandma. I'm Sophie. Just like Chloe, our names even sound alike." Grandma chuckled. "Well, isn't that something? You two must be connected by fate." "Connected indeed. What kind of fate makes two women with similar names fall for the same man?" At dinner, Grandma and Sophie chatted like they were old friends, laughing as if they'd known each other for years. Honestly, I started to feel like the outsider. If this kept up, I wouldn't just lose my love life, I might lose my family too. I shoveled the last of my rice into my mouth, escaped to my room, and immediately unblocked Leo's number. I called him. "Leo," I snapped as soon as he answered, "you better come get Sophie out of here." From the sounds in the background, he was still at the office. I even heard the clink of a coffee cup before he calmly replied. "She asked me what kind of woman I liked. I told her to go see you. If she figures it out, she'll come home." What is that supposed to mean? "You still don't get it?" he said quietly. "I did used to have a thing for her. Maybe I even noticed you at first because you reminded me of her a little. But the one I love now is you." I felt my face flush and I hung up in a panic. Wait a minute. Could it be that I wasn't the stand-in? That I was the real deal? No. I shook my head, trying to get rid of that dangerous thought. I didn't have time for a love story that would go nowhere. If I turned 30 and still wasn't married, Grandma would chase me around the house with a broom. I was lying on my bed, lost in thought, when a knock on the door brought me back to reality. I opened it and was shocked to see Sophie, already changed into pajamas. "Sophie, do you think this is your house or something?" I demanded. "Where did you even get those pajamas?" "Grandma, thanks," she said cheerfully, taking my opening the door as an invitation. I packed them in my suitcase. I didn't see you bring a suitcase, I muttered. Oh, there was an old man at the village entrance. He kindly offered to bring it to your house for me. I gave him $100 as a tip, but he didn't want to take it. The people here are so sweet. I love it. I held my forehead, completely speechless. This woman was going to single-handedly boost the village's GDP if she stayed any longer. Still, I let her stay. That night, she hugged my pillow and looked at me. Chloe, can I sleep on the inside? Why? I asked, already annoyed. I glanced at the wall where my phone was charging. It was generous enough of me to share my bed. Did she really have to take the charging spot, too? She looked a little uneasy. I can't sleep on the outside. It makes me feel unsafe. And so we ended up squeezed together on my small bed. Then she whispered, Chloe, when did you fall in love with Leo? To be honest, I had never really thought about when it started. When did I really begin to fall for him? I decided to tease her a little. Oh, it must have been when he brought me that watch from Paris I'd wanted for ages. Or maybe it was when he gave me that one-of-a-kind designer dress. Oh, and that ruby necklace he bought at the jewelry expo just because I glanced at it twice. Sophie sat up straight, staring at me with wide eyes. Did he ever tell you that during my exchange semester, he had my favorite breakfast flown in every morning and sent me flowers every week? Every time I threw a party, he paid for it. I blinked. Leo had never mentioned any of that. I looked at her. So why didn't you say yes back then? Sophie laughed, clearly having won this round in our silent battle over things I had never even known about. She lay back down, pulled the blanket up, and turned to look at me. Chloe, she said softly, people like us, when they spend money on you, it's usually a transaction. But when someone truly likes you, they'll give you their time. After she said that, she closed her eyes and fell asleep almost instantly. She looked so calm, like some kind of love expert. But I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned all night, her words echoing in my head. When someone truly likes you, they give you their time. The next day, Sophie was already up and ready by the time I dragged myself out of bed. I found her in the chicken coop, helping my grandmother collect eggs. Sophie, I said in disbelief, are you serious right now? She shrugged. Thanks for the invitation. If I want to figure out what Leo ever saw in you, I have to start with your daily life. And so that day, Sophie followed me everywhere. From house chores to running errands, she did it all. Later that afternoon, we moved 2 reclining chairs onto the roof terrace and lay there, enjoying the breeze. I think I finally understand why Leo had a crush on you back then, I said. Sophie, chewing on a piece of fruit my grandmother had picked, looked at me curiously. Why is that? Because you actually suit him, I replied honestly. Your family background, your looks, your personality. You're cheerful and outgoing. You make sense with him. Sophie turned her head and asked quietly, and the 2 of you? Do you think a love between 2 guarded people like you is too fragile to last? More importantly, I said after a pause, his mother likes you. For people like you, the word compatible means everything. Sophie nodded. Exactly, that's why I like him. Because we're a good match. I gave a small smile and bit into the fruit in my hand. It was surprisingly sour. Sophie handed me a tissue to wipe my hands, then looked at me seriously. What about you? Why did you take the breakup money from Leo's mother? Do you really not love him anymore? I don't, I said. And at that exact moment, Leo appeared from the stairwell behind us, standing directly in front of me. His eyes were red. I tried to stay calm, even as my heart hammered in my chest. I looked at him and asked, why are you eavesdropping? He didn't answer. 4 years. You can stop loving someone in just 4 years. I repeated, my voice colder this time. Why were you eavesdropping? Tell me, he said, his voice rough. Was it true, what you just said? If it wasn't true, I snapped, why would I have taken the money from your mother? Leo's expression darkened. Fine, Chloe, you've got guts. Then his gaze softened as he looked at Sophie. Come on, let's go home. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms, but I kept my face blank. They walked away together, and once again, everything was silent. I went back to helping my grandmother with her chores, planting vegetables, spreading fertilizer, gathering eggs. I tried to focus, but my mind kept wandering. I dropped 2 eggs. I pulled up 5 radishes, but realized 2 had fallen out of the basket on the way home. Frustrated, I gave up and opened my social media. I hadn't scrolled through it in a while, since most of the people on there were connected to Leo. But today, I kept scrolling, and suddenly I saw a post from Maya, a former coworker and good friend. She was engaged. I clicked on the photo. In the background were 2 very familiar figures. Leo, smiling as he handed a piece of cake to Sophie. Anyone looking at that picture would think they were perfect together. I turned off my phone and buried my head under the covers, trying to sleep it all away. But my phone rang. It was Maya. "Chloe, I'm engaged," she said excitedly. "I just saw," I replied with a smile. "Congratulations, Maya. You and Ben finally made it." "Thank you. I really thought we'd get to go on a honeymoon together, you and Leo, me and Ben. Are you two really not getting back together?" "Probably not." There was a pause, then she added, "No matter who you end up with, you have to come to my wedding and be my bridesmaid." "Okay, of course. I figured you didn't invite me to the engagement party because you had a special role saved for me." "Exactly. I just invited a small group for the engagement. I'll invite everyone else to the wedding." "Smart plan," I said warmly. Maya was quiet for a long time. I could hear her breathing, like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Finally, she spoke. "Chloe, I really believe Mr. Vance loves you. Maybe he just wasn't ready for marriage yet. Are you sure you don't want to wait a little longer? It's been 4 years after all." I smiled and gently cut her off. "Let's not talk about me, Maya. Congratulations on your engagement. When your wedding day comes, I'll be sure to bring you a gift you'll love." As soon as I hung up, my phone lit up with a new message from Leo. "Maya and Ben are getting married. Are you coming back?" I replied, "Yes, and you shouldn't come. I promised your mother I wouldn't see you again." He sent one more message. "Fine. I'll have a surprise ready for you." The day before Maya's wedding, I returned to the city I had once called home for 9 years. Maya was waiting for me in the hotel lobby early that morning. As soon as she saw me, she rushed past her handsome fiancé and gave me a big hug. I should have been more excited, but Leo's message about a surprise had been bothering me. When I didn't see him at the entrance, I got even more anxious. Sure enough, Maya pulled me aside and whispered, a little guiltily, "Ben asked Leo to be a groomsman." I tried to stop it, but there was no way around it. She looked uneasy, but still linked her pinky with mine like we used to as kids. "Chloe, listen, if you're uncomfortable, just say the word and I'll have Ben switch him out, I swear." I forced a smile. "It's your wedding, Maya. We're all friends. I'll be fine." But fine was the last thing I felt. Leo's idea of a surprise was more like a full-on ambush. As we were talking, a sleek Rolls-Royce pulled up to the hotel. It was the kind of car that made an entrance. My heart sank. I had a feeling I knew who was inside. The driver got out and opened the door, and sure enough, out stepped a graceful, well-dressed, middle-aged woman in sunglasses. Leo's mother, my former boss's mother, my biggest obstacle. Just as I opened my mouth to tell her that my being there had nothing to do with her son, she rushed forward, grabbed my hands, pulled off her sunglasses, and started to cry. I blinked. "Excuse me." Maya stood behind me, shaking her head, clearly as stunned as I was. "Chloe," the woman said, her voice trembling. "It was my fault. I never should have tested your love with money. I was wrong." I stared at her, completely lost. I'd seen enough melodramas to know the script, but living it was something else entirely. I stammered, "Please, slow down, what happened?" She sniffled and clutched my hand tighter. "Leo said that if he couldn't marry you, he would go to the hospital and get sterilized." My eyes widened. So that was the surprise. I gently patted her hand. "Please don't cry. He was lying to you." She didn't budge. "Chloe, you're the only one. Leo is the only heir to the Vance family. Please, just come to the hospital with me. I swear, I see everything clearly now. I fully support your relationship. I mean it." And so, I ended up going to the hospital with her. Just as I suspected, Leo was sitting comfortably on a bench in the courtyard, sipping a Starbucks coffee his assistant had brought him. I turned to his mother and said softly, "Look, you see? He wasn't serious." Only then did she finally let out a sigh of relief. I walked over and stood in front of Leo. "Can we talk?" I asked. He stood up immediately and followed me to a quiet corner of the garden. With a grin, he said, "Don't worry. From now on, my mom is on your side." I looked him straight in the eye, my voice calm but firm. "Leo, this has gone on long enough. Please stop. I don't love you anymore." His smile vanished. "Chloe, why can't you see how much I've done for you? Is your heart made of stone?" he shouted. His voice rose so suddenly that I took a step back, startled. In all our years together, he had never lost his temper like that. "Why? How can you just stop loving someone after 4 years like it was nothing?" He saw the fear in my eyes and took a breath to calm himself. His voice softened as he repeated the question. "Do you remember our first year together?" I asked softly. "The time we went to your friend's party at that karaoke place?" Leo paused for a moment, then nodded. "Yeah, I remember." I looked at him, my voice calm but steady. "I left to go to the restroom, and when I came back, I overheard your friend asking you if you were only with me because of Sophie." You laughed and nodded, saying something like, "So even you figured it out." I heard everything. Leo opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, I continued. "I know I was selfish too. We were still in that honeymoon phase, and I kept thinking that maybe I was just filling the space she left, but you were so kind. You showed up right when I was lost, pulled me out of the darkness, and gave me a love that felt so real. I didn't have the heart to question it. I didn't want to ruin something so beautiful." As I spoke, my voice started to tremble. The feelings I had bottled up for so long began to spill out. Leo, who had been listening silently, suddenly leaned forward, his voice anxious. "I'm sorry, but I think I can explain. Please, let me explain." I swallowed hard, trying to blink away the tears. I told myself that if this was really our last conversation, I didn't want him to remember me as a woman with smeared makeup, breaking down. "I still have a lot of questions," I said. "Let's just talk through everything today. If this is goodbye, let it at least be a proper one." Sensing my calm resolve, Leo stopped rushing. He pulled out a chair and sat down, then patted the empty seat next to him. "If we're saying a proper goodbye," he said with a small smile, "then tell me who the real culprit is behind you throwing away 4 years of us." I took a breath and sat down. "All right," I said. "Let me count the ways." I turned to face him, my tone even. "There was that time I found a photo of Sophie in your desk. You didn't explain, you just asked me to give it back." Leo's face twitched slightly, but I went on. "Then there was the business dinner we went to. You said right in front of the client that I couldn't hold a candle to Sophie. You might not have known, but I heard every word. And then, on our 3rd anniversary, you promised to celebrate my birthday with me by proposing. But the only thing I got that day was a call from your mother telling me you had gone to pick up Sophie." Leo sat there, silent, his expression unreadable. After I finished, I gave him a nudge. "That's it, I'm done." He nodded. "All right, then let me have my turn. And once I'm finished, you can decide if you still want to walk away." I nodded, giving him permission. "The first one," he said, "at the karaoke place. I only got halfway through answering my friend when you came back. We never finished that conversation." I looked at him. "And what was the rest of your answer?" Leo's eyes softened. "It was the turning point. The moment I realized how lucky I was to have met you." That answer stirred something in me. So maybe, just maybe, I was never a substitute. He continued, "As for Sophie's photo, yes, I had it in my desk. And yes, I asked for it back. But not because I wanted to keep it. I had forgotten it was there. It was a personal photo, and I just thought it should be disposed of properly." He turned to me, his expression sincere. "I should have realized how that made you feel. I truly didn't mean anything by it. That was my fault." Inside, I thought, Well, you asking for it back without a word did feel like confirmation that I was just a stand-in. Still, I found myself waiting, hoping for what he would say next. I looked at him and asked, "All right, then what about what you said to the client? I couldn't have imagined that, could I?" Leo blinked. "Wait, you heard that? Why did you never say anything? Did you really think I didn't like you?" I tilted my head, half laughing through the sting. "Wow, Mr. Vance. Turns out I have better hearing than you thought, huh?" He looked utterly regretful as he explained. "That client, he's actually one of Sophie's obsessive admirers. He said he wanted to pursue you, and I told him what he really liked was Sophie's family background. I said you were nothing like her in that regard." Well, he wasn't wrong. That was the truth. I lowered my head, letting the hurt sink in for a second. Then he added, "But I don't care about your background. You, as you are more precious than all of that." Just like that, the sadness vanished. But Leo said nothing more after that. He stood up and said calmly, "All right, there's one final question. I'll answer it after Ben's wedding." The next day was Maya's wedding. We woke up early to help her with her makeup and joined her for the morning photo shoot in matching robes. We took countless pictures until the groom's party arrived. As expected, Leo was one of the groomsmen. One of the wedding games involved tossing rings onto soda bottles. The challenge was that the groomsmen had to get the rings on while holding up the groom. Everyone started cheering for Leo to support Ben from behind so he could lean forward and get a better angle. Ben grinned and shouted, "Come on, man, I've been your lackey for years. Time for you to shine." Leo rolled his eyes, but then, without warning, wrapped his arms around Ben's waist and lifted him up. Everyone gasped as if they'd just seen something incredible. We've all seen beautiful brides and handsome grooms, but two 6'1" men clinging to each other in broad daylight? That was a rare sight. Without thinking, I pulled out my phone and snapped a picture. Just as I did, I noticed Leo in the frame, and he was looking right at me. Later, as I watched Maya and Ben exchange vows, I was genuinely happy for them. I was so touched that I didn't even notice the tears streaming down my face. But Leo did. He took a step forward, positioning himself slightly in front of me to shield me from view. Then, from his suit pocket, he discreetly handed me a tissue. I was grateful. Crying in public, especially with cameras around, wasn't ideal. During the bouquet toss, Maya must have made a deal with the MC. Instead of tossing it, she walked right up to me and handed it over. "Chloe," she said, smiling warmly, "no matter who you marry, I just want you to be happy. I hope your future is filled with love." How could I not cry at that? This time, Leo didn't pretend to be subtle. He stepped directly in front of me, shielding my tear-streaked face from the crowd. Our mutual friends noticed, and Ben, ever the instigator, was the first to shout, "Well, well, that was all it took." The room erupted in playful teasing. Embarrassed, my tears dried up instantly. I'd be lying if I said I had never imagined marrying Leo. I had played that scene in my head countless times. He once casually asked me, "If I proposed on your next birthday, would you say yes?" I told him I might not, but in my heart, I secretly pictured it over and over. In that vision, he chose me not as a stand-in, but as someone he truly loved. As the evening ended, Maya, a little tipsy, walked with me to the door, her arm linked with mine. Leo and Ben followed behind us. Suddenly, Maya pulled me into a hug. "Don't leave," she whispered. "If you go, who will sneak out to the break room with me for gossip?" I blinked. "Girl, are you quitting your job now that you're married?" I quickly clamped a hand over her mouth and turned to check Leo's reaction. Behind us, Ben lit a cigarette and asked casually, "Did Chloe ever mention this to you?" Leo replied, "Do I look like someone who would know?" Still covering Maya's mouth, I muttered, No, she's drunk. Definitely drunk." I had just handed Maya over to Ben and was about to get a cab to the train station. I needed to get back to the village. Leo said, "Why don't you stay a bit longer? Let's go for a walk." I replied, "A walk? If I don't leave now, I'll miss the last bus." "My car is restricted today, and if I miss that bus, I'll be stuck here," I explained. "I'll drive you," Leo offered. I gently pushed his arm away. There's still one unanswered question between us. You don't get to act close. So I went back to the village. There's something deeply comforting about being with my grandma, sitting on the terrace, sipping tea, and collecting eggs for her to make me fried rice. Those were the moments that felt real. Because I knew one thing for sure. I was Chloe, and that meant Grandma would always choose me, believe in me, and love me. I stopped by the agricultural company I was running in town. On my way, I passed the village entrance and challenged old Mr. Chen to another chess match. Once again, I won by a narrow margin, and once again, he tried to cheat. These small bits of rural life filled me with a sense of peace I hadn't felt in the city. Some people can balance love and a career, but when I'm unsure, my heart can't help but lean one way. Before someone chooses me with conviction, I can't help but question if happiness like this could ever really be mine, and if it could last. 2 days after Maya's wedding, I saw Leo again. I had just woken up and was still in my pajamas. I glanced at the clock. It was already 10 a.m. "Grandma," I called out, "why didn't you wake me up? I was supposed to check in at the company today." But as I opened my door, I saw Leo, sleeves rolled up, gathering eggs beside Grandma at the chicken coop. I rubbed my eyes twice to make sure I wasn't seeing things. Then I screamed, "Leo, what on earth are you doing here?" Without looking up, Leo replied casually, helping Grandma collect eggs. Grandma added, "You silly girl, you've been dating this young man for 4 years and never once brought him home to meet me. He had to come on his own, and he brought so many gifts, too." "We broke up," I said quickly. Grandma turned to look at Leo. He shook his head vigorously. She made her decision on the spot. "All right then, the two of you are going out to lunch today. Sort things out and don't come back until you do. But young man, let me be clear, you better not hurt our Chloe." Leo nodded so fast I thought his head might fall off. And just like that, I had barely finished my hair and makeup before Grandma practically shoved me out the door with Leo. As soon as we were outside, Leo opened the car door. The way everything was set up told me this had been planned. "Where are we going?" I asked. He turned to me and gently buckled my seatbelt. "You'll see when we get there." Maybe it was the calm music in his car or how familiar it felt to sit in the passenger seat while he drove. But somewhere along the way, I fell asleep. When I woke up, we were pulling up to the hot spring resort where we had taken our first trip together, and there, waiting at the entrance, was Sophie. She walked over to my side of the car and smiled. "Just wanted to let you know, I've officially given up on Leo. No need to feel bad, there are plenty of amazing men still chasing me." I looked at her amused. "Why?" Sophie flipped her hair. "Because even though I'm smart and beautiful, there's one thing I simply can't do." She leaned closer, her voice a playful whisper. "Your eyes are smaller than mine." I thought about it. And I've decided not to get surgery to shrink mine. I stared at her, stunned that I had leaned in so seriously to hear that. She laughed and added, all right. The truth is, I really think you're a wonderful person. I came today because I hope we can be friends." I smiled. "Of course we already are, but what do you mean you came today for?" Before she could answer, Leo finally spoke up. "I'm still standing here, you know. If I hadn't said something, you two might be off swearing sisterhood vows." Then, without hesitation, Leo reached out and took my hand. Strangely, I didn't pull away. Inside the hotel, there was a spacious open courtyard decorated beautifully with a quiet, romantic air. What delighted me most was the abundance of Mickey Mouse decorations scattered throughout. My favorite. Just behind the hotel was the sea with a dock for private yachts. Leo held my hand as we walked toward the marina. Halfway there, I realized Sophie was no longer with us. "Wait a second," I said, stopping. "Sophie didn't follow us." Leo looked back and said calmly, "She's already on the yacht, waiting for you." Still doubtful, I followed him. By the time we reached the dock, the sky had begun to darken. Just as we stepped onto the yacht, fireworks erupted over the water. I thought to myself, who goes to this much trouble for such an over-the-top proposal? And just as that thought crossed my mind, Leo dropped to one knee in front of me. I should have known. No one else could be this dramatic. Then I looked up, and the fireworks burst into images of our old photos together, lighting up the sky one by one. This was it. He really was the CEO from those romance novels. Leo looked up at me and spoke with unwavering clarity. I know you've always had doubts about whether happiness like this can last, but I want you to know from the moment I told you my feelings, I saw my own heart clearly. The one I love is you. Tears welled up in my eyes. I lifted my gaze and saw Grandma standing at the far end of the yacht, smiling at me gently. Somehow, without me noticing, he had won her over too. Leo continued, his voice steady. On your birthday, when I picked Sophie up at the airport, it was because I had asked her to bring back a custom engagement ring from abroad. I had it made based on a sketch I saw you drawing. I never expected my mother to show up that day and ruin the surprise. From the crowd, Leo's mother quickly stepped forward. Chloe, I support this marriage, I really do. As long as you love each other, that's what matters. Then Leo looked at me again. Chloe, will you marry me? And even after we're married, I promise you will still shine brightly as yourself. I smiled through my tears and nodded. In that moment, the fireworks above seemed to echo the joy bursting in my chest. Sophie, right on cue, emerged from below deck with a group of servers carrying a giant cake decorated just the way I loved it, with Mickey Mouse on top. There was a time when I wondered if I would be brave enough to trust love when it finally came. Leo helped me find that courage. He reminded me that when happiness knocks, you can't afford to be a coward. By the following spring, my little countryside house was finally renovated. Leo and I would go back from time to time for a few peaceful days. He became a familiar face in the village. It was common to see Leo at Grandma's, collecting eggs or playing chess with old Mr. Chen, who was still cheating, or helping Mrs. Gable count her sheep. Leo himself often said that spending time in the village gave him a kind of peace he couldn't find in the city. He especially enjoyed it when people smiled and asked, "You're Chloe's fiancé, right?" Once everything was ready, we chose a lovely day in June to get married. We kept the ceremony small and warm, surrounded by close family and friends. Leo respected all of my wishes. It wasn't a grand event, but it was heartfelt and truly ours. That night, as we lay in bed, I reached into the bedside table drawer and handed him a card. He looked at it. "What's this?" "It's the breakup fee your mother gave me," I said. Leo laughed. "Perfect, I'll take it. Let's just say she gave us a bonus for changing her mind. We can use it for our next vacation." Then he leaned closer, his eyes twinkling. "Besides, tonight we have something even more important to do." Shocking twist. On our wedding night, my CEO husband tried to steal the blanket. I really should report him to the marriage department.
Hell yeah. What once was. When you were singing, I think you were giving Belle from the animated Beauty and the Beast. Wait, I love that. Stop. Ooh, Omerta, no worries, no worries. Ugh, that sucks. They love doing it for no reason. Okay. Yes, better sign. You to admire. I love Band of Horses. Decided to paint again. Mega Bonk was too hard. And I'm too sober. Aww. Boo. Boo earns. I was saying boo earns. Never gonna be more than I do. Oh. What I do. Okay. Things start splitting at the seams, and now Canada has dildo, climax, and spread eagle? No, that can't be real. Are they all in fucking Saskatchewan? So Periwinkle's smiling as always. I can never remember their names, so this is what I call them now. What? Oh, so Periwinkle's really good, actually. I like that. Ever living ghost of what once was. I think the only time I've seen Megabonk, Dali, was when you were playing it on stream. Okay, Intercourse, Blue Ball, Bird in Hand, Sack City, and Walla Walla. There you go. We got Wagga Wagga. Whoa. Claw, is that Radiohead? Am I imagining that? Is that Radiohead? Big Beaver? Great. Asbestos Quebec? Is that real? I never know what to believe anymore. I'm trying to think what the lyrics are. Are we talking funny town names? Yes, we sure are, James. Also, we're back from ads. Pratt Bottom. Oh, God. Yeah, we could do that. We could read Fast Stop. You know I love a little Radiohead. Lower Beaver. They knew what they were doing. These are just ghosts that broke my heart before. No, that's not real. No, that's not real. How is that real? That's furked. Ghosts that broke my heart before I met you. That's true. I hate that. Tonight. Absolutely crazy work.